Hey, I'm Paul with Oak Wells Aquatics. We're gonna continue our process of showing you through the build or behind the build, but I wanna kind of take you to the street first to see what to expect and what the whole process is. So if we look at the street, neighborhood, we're gonna clog up the street with a lot of equipment, trucks, debris sometimes, but we've kind of got the whole street, and you got Nader's Pest Control across the street clogging their side of the street. So neighbors will get maybe a little bit annoyed with this, but we do actually put door hangers on the adjacent properties. So if they do have an issue or a problem, they can reach out to us and ask us if anything we can do. So we are communicating with your neighbors as well as you guys, the homeowners. But it's a very invasive process, not just for you, but just for your neighbors as well. And you can kind of see it's dirty. This yard used to look like this yard, but we like to destroy it as we build. But you'll see when we show you a 3D picture with this, and then we come back to the end of this job, it's not going to look like this. So it's always, you got to grind through this process. It's fun to see things come through, but it's also very dirty and very invasive, especially if you're working from home. We are in the middle of the tile phase right now. This job is a very large glass tile job. There's glass tile and stonework going on this job. And we do a lot of prep work, especially with our glass. And we'll show you some reasons why we do that. What we're doing now, we're floating out the beam for two reasons. We want to get it perfectly flat, perfectly white, because this has transparent glass going on it. So you're going to see behind whatever's behind the glass. We use a product called Pool Bright, which several things that it does. Not only does it float out the shell, we're making it flat for the glass tile. It's going to be very white, which you'll see some of it on the wall at the back, and it's also a waterproofing coat. We do 2 layers of waterproofing before we stick the tile on, and we'll show you why we do that with a couple screenshots. It's efflorescence preventer, and it's also leak prevention. This is our tile crew, especially with glass. You want to be you're going to hire a contractor, but you got to know who's going to be installing the glass. You'll see we're going to walk around the backside first, and you'll see a different shade on the concrete. That's our first layer of waterproofing. So what they're doing now is basically floating out the pool wall, making it perfectly flat, perfectly square. Your tile does 2 things. It's going to square up, do the final squaring up the inside of the pool. It also sets your final elevation of the pool. You can adjust the tile up and down. Now with glass tile, not so much. With 6x6, you can adjust it up and down, which you can set in your final elevation of the pool, which sets your final elevation for the deck and your pitch towards your deck drains and your drainage. In this pool, you can't see it if you want to move closer though. There is some groundwater here, there's some rainwater from last night in here. There's a main drain there, and there's a main drain in our shallow end. This pool, when you see the 3D of this pool, it has multiple water features and big water features, so we need to draw our water from somewhere. So we always design not just for aesthetics, but functionality. And I want to show you something in the spa of functionality and aesthetics and what you want to think of. The funnest part of this process, obviously, is when you start digging, you see a big transformation, and we can do a cannonball. But the other fun part, which we should take your time on, is thinking everything through. And it's hard sometimes until the job starts coming alive. But this spa, there's industry standards throughout the build. Our spa jet location on this was not specified, so basically we put, they want 8 jets, we put them in the center of the wall or stagger them as they should. If you see the higher jets, that was thought of after the shell was shot because they wanted something in the middle of their back. So we did have to actually, it was a change order. We had to cut into the beam and replumb that spa jet. Now, if that was thought in the beginning of the process or communicated because that's something you really wanted, always make sure you're including that when you're with your sales consultant designing the job, so we don't have to do a change order. It's going to cost you more money after you already spent money, and then it's not a tear something apart that you already did, which is no big deal. We do it all the time, especially with the remodels. But take your time in the design process. Try to think everything through. It's hard until you start seeing things come to life to always do that, but ask the questions. This is the fun part. Don't just think of the bird's eye view and the look of the pool. Think of the functionality of the pool and or the spa and or the water features. What have you seen somewhere else? What did you really like at a resort pool or somebody else's pool? So always talk to your sales consultant about that. So we're not having to incur more costs once you've already come to an agreement on a contract and then you want something else, obviously it's going to cost more because it's a change. But have fun in the design process. Ask the questions in the design process with your sales consultant. Don't just think of looks, think of functionality. This Fulbright is also your base ingredient for plaster, but we're floating it out. We're getting it white because you saw that tile is very transparent, and it's a sealant as well. So even 15 years down the road, your grout goes missing, which we put acrylic fortifiers in our grout, so it never should. You will not have a leak. All concrete, all cement will wick in moisture. You might never notice the leak, but it does wick in moisture. But that's why we do 2 layers of waterproofing before we even get the tile on.